We all know that feeling of going to the grocery store to get a few items and end up at the checkout with nearly $100 worth of stuff we didn't plan on buying. Yep, that's me at Target. That's why personal finance educator Sarah Schweistall is here to give us tips on how to spend and save our hard-earned money smarter at the grocery store and everywhere else. Sarah, welcome to DBL.
Thank you for having me. So excited to be on your show.
Sarah, let's jump right in. I love saving me some money, okay? So you've been saving $700 on grocery spending every single month. How did you do it? Did you get rid of all your children? And how can someone start saving today?
It's terrible.
Well, basically, I started to just be more intentional about food, what I eat, what I buy. I started to try to extend the time between grocery shopping trips because, I mean, I was going like 3, 4, 5 times a week, and that can really add up. So I started by doing an inventory of the food I had on hand and just shopping my house. And who knew? I had a lot of food that I could use up. So that's where I started. And then I also started making big meals. I call them my 3-purpose meals. I will save some for lunch the next day, eat some for dinner that night, and then freeze some for later. I call it a gift to my future self. It just kind of, it really makes it easier for me.
That's smart. Can I ask you something about, I hate grocery shopping, so this is a big deal, but what are the top grocery items that people are wasting the most money on?
I think we waste the most on food that goes bad before we even get a chance to eat it. So for me personally, that was produce. I would buy a ton of fresh produce and then basically, I mean, think about all of the bags of lettuce that go bad in the fridge. It's just, so I would say that is one of the biggest ones for me. So I started cutting down on the amount of fresh produce that I buy, and whatever I do buy, I chop it up right away so that it's easily accessible. And then I just supplement with things like frozen produce and canned produce.
Oh, smart.
Okay, so let's talk about things that are kind of inevitable at some point. If things like rent or cell phone bills become more expensive, what are the first things we should cut back on each month?
I think that changes from person to person, but go through your spending plan, your budget, and figure out what you have the most control over, things that you could change. And so for me, that was, of course, groceries. There are many different ways that I could cut back, from buying generic brands to just being more creative in the kitchen.
And if someone, here's a question that I know a lot of our viewers might have, I personally have. If someone has debt to pay off, how much should we spend and save versus paying off those debts every single month?
You know, that's a really good question, and the answer is going to vary from person to person. Everybody's situation is different. So if you're trying to pay off debt, I always recommend just asking yourself a couple of questions before you put extra money towards that debt. One of them is, are all of my immediate obligations covered? Do I have enough money to cover my bills? Right. Other things I need to spend money on, like groceries or even events coming up, birthdays, things like that. And then another question is just ask yourself, am I preparing for the future? Those non-monthly expenses that pop up throughout the year. Those are what can really get us, and we can actually get into debt for those if we're not preparing for those and get into this like cycle of paying off debt and getting back into debt.
Yes.
So I say prepare for things like maybe your annual car insurance bill or home maintenance, things like that. Have a little emergency fund and cushion, and it's basically like future debt prevention then. And once you have all of that covered, then you can put extra money towards debt. I recommend having a spending plan in YNAB or another money management app, just something that can help you be aware of where your money is going.
I love it.
Could you and my wife become Instagram friends? That'd be great. That'd be great.
She can follow us on Instagram. We're at YNAB.
We definitely will. But Sarah, before we go, what are the 4 questions you should ask yourself before buying something?
Ooh, 4 questions to ask yourself. I think you ask yourself, is there something else I would rather be spending this money on? Is this giving me joy? How does this purchase bring me joy? Am I buying it for me, or am I just trying to keep up with the Joneses, keep up with appearances? You know, I think we can all fall into that trap. So just, internally reflect. And then one of my favorite things to say, and we say this at YNAB, you should love the way you're spending your money. So if I buy this thing, will I love the way I'm spending my money?
Do you love the way you're spending your money, guys?
No, I need more Sarah in my life.
Yeah.
I really do.
And can I be honest with you, Sarah? The reason I'm not doing better, and maybe you can speak to that, is because I'm scared. I'm not intelligent enough to know, so I hide.
No,
I avoid.
You're not fiscally
Savvy?
educated.
Literate, yeah.
Yes.
And so I avoid.
Me too.
And that's not helpful.
Right. I finally called
that
Erica's
was-
person. She's helping me, but we
Really?
Sarah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll call next.
Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all your money-saving tips. DBL Nation, learn more about the money management app, YNAB at ynab.com, and get more tips from Sarah on her TikTok at YNAB Official. Thank you again, Sarah.
That's
we
awesome.
appreciate you. We'll be right back.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Sarah.